Used to know a student at school who went on the deep web. This was around 2014. We'll call him Dallas, and he was the most computer genius anyone has ever met. This was around just after he left high school, aka graduating. Once he graduated, he became a computer genius ever since he was a kid, and a lot of the times he would ask for some computer equipment and stuff for birthdays and whatnot. He was also capable of getting IP addresses and stuff, and even did some favors from time to time for his buddies. He liked it for most of the time, although his parents did warn him about certain things, what he should and shouldn't do. But he knew certain things and he knew about internet safety, so his parents weren't really too concerned. But it definitely was something that really taught him something. To be completely honest, Dallas was at home one night and it was around April. Of course, his friends asked him if he could purchase some certain things on the deep web, and of course he said no. And since that they were illegal stuff, he rather not get in trouble. Now, he had gotten caught at one point, but was given a warning upon it, but that was just that. Other than that, Dallas was lucky that he still knew better than to do some stuff. There was certain things that his parents allowed him to do online, and there was things that he wasn't allowed to do online. Eventually, though, Dallas was on the deep web searching through stuff. To get there, you can't use your usual browsers like Google and Firefox. You have to download Tor in order to get it. Now, it wasn't really a big issue since at this point Dallas knew what he was doing on the internet. When you're on the deep web, you gotta make sure you know what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing, you could be screwed within a matter of minutes or even a second. Dallas was scrolling through the internet, mainly just looking to see if there was anything else, when all of a sudden a random link popped up. He didn't really know who it was, but then he decided maybe he should click on it, and as soon as he did, he noticed something odd. It appeared to be in some sort of room. He didn't even notice or know what room it was, and he decides not to question it since he didn't know the room. The room looked as if it was pretty much a illusion or something. It appeared to be a person. She seems to enter the room, and she, of course, had a wicked grin. She basically said, "I know you clicked on this link, Dallas. You know what you should do? You need to buy me some drugs." Dallas doesn't even know who this woman was, but this woman who stepped into the dark room was definitely insane. Dallas, instead of speaking against it, since he didn't want to risk anyone coming to his house, he ended up just closing off the laptop and removed the battery from it since he tried to turn it off, but he couldn't. He eventually got rid of his laptop pretty much and ended up flushing it completely just to avoid any of the memories or something. It wasn't until when he got back from work about 2 weeks later when he found something in his mailbox. Curious, they had no return address, but he saw the package and he opened it to reveal that there was illegal content. I'm not going to say what it was, but it was some illegal drugs. He turned this down to the police and the authorities, and they unfortunately were not sure who it was, but of course they were on the investigation. Eventually, a few years later, back sometime in 2018, Dallas got an update that the same woman he saw on the deep web had unfortunately had never been caught. They never updated him if she was caught or not, but he'd like to think that maybe she did or got her karma. Who knows what? Dallas has never returned to the deep web again, and he stayed away from computers for a little while after that deep web experience back in 2014. Yeah, he stayed away from computers for a little while after that until the paranoia faded away. He still gets paranoia about it from time to time, but he is now more careful on what he goes on the internet, and he never And when I repeat never, he's never returned to the deep web again, and he doesn't ever plan to go there anymore. This happened to a teacher who used to work at my school, but this was around the time when he was in his 20s or early 30s, and this was around 2010. He was a high school teacher, and he still is, from as far as I know. However, he had a really horrible experience with the deep web. Most of the time, he lived out in the countryside in a rural area, so to get to town was about maybe 15 to 20 minutes from the countryside. His mailbox was somewhere down the road out of his house, pretty much near the end of the driveway. So it was pretty much just on the road, so people can drop off mail and stuff. However, most of the time when he was on the internet, he basically lived alone after him and his girlfriend unfortunately broke up due to reasons that I will not go into. This teacher at the time, we will call him by the name Mr. Mr. Beach. Mr. Beach basically lived in a pretty decent house. Of course, he really wished that his breakup with his girlfriend didn't happen, but unfortunately it did. He had no kids at the time still, so he was basically still working, although he was trying to see if he could find someone to maybe be a roommate. He mostly paid his attention to the internet, pretty much. He basically distanced himself from people, with the only exception of being work, such as employees, other teachers, students, etc. But most of the time, he turned his attention to the internet, as he really considers it to be more his thing. On the internet, he basically scrolled through. He basically finds a lot of stuff on the internet. However, one teacher had been on the deep web, and he said to maybe give it a go. He decided that he would do it after their their work. So when he got home from work, first thing he did was open up his laptop, and he basically got on the internet and decided to look through some stuff. As he was looking through some stuff, he ended up coming across what seemed to be some sort of weird chat room. He honestly didn't know what this weird chat room is, but it seemed to be a pretty decent chat room with a bunch of other people. He started talking to some people, and although there was this one person, which his name was Adrian. Adrian seemed pretty nice to Mr. Beach, and Mr. Beach started talking to Adrian. They both pretty much shared the same common things, and he seemed to be a little older. He was in his 50s, so Adrian had experiences of being a teacher for a while, and he said he still is. Of course, Mr. Beach didn't find anything of that suspicious, so he decided, maybe it should be fine. However, it wasn't until 2 days later, when Mr. Beach got home, he went on to his computer and he found out that Adrian had not responded for a while. But then the voice in the chat box, which randomly popped up, and apparently it said along the lines of, "Check your mailbox." Mr. Beach went outside and he checked his mailbox to find where there was a note. It seemed to be really confused, and he thought that maybe somebody was pulling a prank on him on the deep web. When, of course, when he opened it up, he saw that there was a blood stain on the envelope, and he looked to see there wasn't anything that caused it. There was just a note that said, "Ed, I am at your house." This is when Mr. Beach ended up getting the police involved. Of course, he eventually had his cell phone in his pocket, but he went next to his neighbor's house at least a few yards down. Of course, he didn't. This police had searched the place, but everywhere, but they could not find him, and they basically hadn't found any traces of it. Mr. Beach ended up deciding to change his address, and he moved at least two weeks later, as he couldn't stand the constant paranoia that he was being watched. Still to this day, he had no idea how this Adrian person managed to figure out his IP address in his email, but that was definitely something he had no idea what to become of it. Fast forward in 2014, this is when things got really odd. Eventually, Mr. Beach was at school and he was on his break when he got a weird email from someone that he had not recognized at all. He clicked on the email, and as soon as he clicked on the email, it basically listed names of his students, his house number, his email address, etc. He ended up having to get everything changed after going to police about it. Still to this day, Mr. Beach has never been on the deep web again, and he doesn't ever plan to go back there due to this experience. From time to time, whenever he's online, he would think about this and wondered what was Adrian's intentions of what he did in that mailbox, but this was definitely something that took the prize. It honestly still bugs him every now and then, but eventually that paranoia faded away and he's never went back to the deep web again. He doesn't even know if Adrian was still out there or if he had been caught. Questions flooded his mind. He had gone to the police about a few times getting mysterious emails, and eventually they were stopped. Mr. Beach ended up getting a VPN to protect his IP address, as he didn't want this to be Adrian's doing, trying to get his IP addresses more just to try and blackmail him. This has been one of the times that he was not safe on the internet, but Mr. Beach eventually became more content, and now he is doing much better without having the constant paranoia of this Adrian person trying to sit there and pretty much try to ruin his life on the internet.